Shalom Aleichem, this is Rabbi Yehuda Levin on June 16th, Lemisporum, for our weekly video update on what's happening with same-gender marriage. In the past, we've talked about what Aguda did not do. And it's not only Aguda who didn't do it. Frankly, all the Rabbanim and all the Moistis did not do for years what they were supposed to be doing with same-gender marriage and with opposing the deviant agenda, the rights agenda, the Tueva rights agenda, etc. And that's why we are now in the problem with same-gender marriage. However, we have some good news, Rabbi Isai. Baruch Hashem, as Rabbi Zweibel and others are quoted in the piece in Hamodia and other Haredi media, we have succeeded because when everybody gets together and they send 30,000 signatures and they stand on the steps of City Hall, you see that a pressure could be put on the mayor and the city council speaker, and for the next 6 months they have saved vouchers. So now, Baruch Hashem, that you save vouchers and you can now deal with other important things with Klal Yisrael. Maybe now that you've finished the Gelt agenda, maybe you could deal with the God agenda. Let's understand part of the problem. Part of the problem, and I say this with respect but with firmness, I have respect for Assemblyman Hikind on some of the things he does that are very important. The fact that he took the ball and ran on the child abuse situation after he interviewed Nachum Rosenberg. So he stepped into the gunky, if you will, and he found it hard to extricate himself. So despite frequently declaring, why me, why me? Why isn't anybody else dealing with the child abuse? So Dov Hikind was chosen to start to deal with it, even though, frankly, it's slowed down, meaning it's been many months since he's compiled the lists of the 60 pedophiles, and since he has compiled over 1,000 people who were abused, and yet we don't really hear any specific progress. And the Markey Duane bill, which the good people who are supporting it never refer to it as Markey Duane, because Duane is the openly HIV positive Oisvarf, a Toevenik from the state senate who's pushing same-gender marriage and thinking people should be asking themselves, why is it Duane, the Mishkav Zochanik, who's suddenly concerned about the sodomization of different people, preteens and teens? So Rabbi say, anyhow, the point is as follows. I explained to Mr. Hikind, to Assemblyman Hikind, when he came to my shul on Chanukah at the Igor Rabbanim Rosh Chodesh Suda, Rosh Chodesh Tevis, I explained to Mr. Hikind that he is one of the people who has been responsible for bringing people into the community, introducing the Bill de Blasio's, the State Senator Kevin Parker's, did he have Senator Diane Savino? I can't remember, but Malcolm Smith and all the other mushchosim, meaning the people who are pushing the hashchosa. So of course, the more hashchosa legislation there is, the more we show Hashem, we turn the other cheek. In other words, we smile and we go, and my good friend him and my good friend that. The more we do that, Reb Dave, and that is chanfarai, I must say that. I say that is chanfarai, what you do on the radio program. I leave it to the people to make the decision. The more we do that, the more spiritually our children are sodomy abused, because we're showing Hashem we don't care about the political sodomy agenda. And I asked Dov Hikind the following question. I said, Assemblyman Hikind, if these assemblymen or state senators would be against the Jews in Yehuda and Shomron, and would say they all have to be expelled, they would adopt the President Obama view, would you have them on your radio program? Would you hunt for them? Would you support them? Would you smile at them? Would you make common cause with them? He said, absolutely not. So I said, here you tell us they're violating our children, and it's terrible, and how do you sleep at night? That's what you've been telling us. And yet it's business as usual when you keep on putting these people on your radio program. So that's why I said you have an achrayus to clean up the mess that you helped make. So Reb Dov responded to me, Rabbi Levin, you're right, I really can't say anything, but that's the way it goes in business. He says, I'm not the only one who does it. Agudas Yisrael does it, the Young Israel does it, the Satmar Hasidus does it, and we're all doing it. So, by the way, that of course that won't stand up after 120 years, that this Rav did it or this organization did it, is not going to help. But Dov was honest enough to admit that this is a good point. But the problem continues with Assemblyman Hikind. Here, the main sponsor, the one who promoted this bill and pushed it out into the public ostensibly, was Governor Paterson, who has a 19% approval rating, so he's trying to get brownie points with the militant homosexuals and the homosexualist liberals who support them. So at such a time where Governor Paterson is one of the enemies number one on the morality, and he's the main promoter or the sponsor of this bill. So Assemblyman Hikind goes ahead and has a fundraiser in Lawrence that's pictured on places like Yeshiva World and all the other websites with the pictures. One or two intelligent people said, and I don't know, it is my business, not my business, but it's a valid question that we're allowed to ask thinking people. You don't have anybody running against you. There are some who say you have as much as $1 million in your kitty, your political kitty. What's the mitzvah to give money to a politician right now in the midst of this economic downturn? If there is money, it should go to help the poor people who need the vouchers or other poor people. But that's a halbatzara, right? We're allowed to notice this, but we're not necessarily the world's policemen. But you have Governor Paterson come down, as you'll see in this picture. So if Governor Paterson comes down, Dove, you make a clear signal to all the homosexuals politicians that it's business as usual. Now, this is not only in this physical world that you're doing something which is contradictory and embarrassing and hypocritical and sheds questions on how serious you are. In other words, it's so important for you to go out to Lawrence and flex your political muscles by producing the prime sponsor, in other words, he can't vote, but he introduced the bill of same-gender marriage at a time when he's so low on the totem pole. And probably Mario Cuomo's son, Andrew, will probably defeat him in a Democratic primary. But leave alone the politics. You really have to do this, Dove? What kind of a message are you sending to the prostitute politicians? Hey, it's business as usual. Don't worry about the fact that I'm speaking about the gay marriage. This same-gender marriage is not attached to any politician. It had an immaculate conception. You know, it was born by itself. Dove Hikind, shame on you. I still like you for the good things you're doing, but shame on you. This is hypocritical. This is not that strong, proud Zionist. You wouldn't do this kind of stira for your Zionist feelings about Israel and the territories, etc., etc. Why do you do it when it comes to God's morality? And not far behind that is Hamodia and Yated. Yated is Shah Shtil. Yated are like the Ger Hasidim of Eretz Yisrael on the Hashchos agenda there. We make like it doesn't exist, and if we make like it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. Now that's ridiculous, because it does exist, Rabbi say. With all due respect, it does exist. And Yated is doing the same thing. Yated is doing the same thing. They haven't written anything against this. And if you think that when the Sfarim say that Rabbonim in the city who don't give the proper Musar, we've spoken about this on my radio program, the Fear Kashas, which is heard every Sunday evening on 6:20 a.m. from midnight to 1 o'clock and can be archived if you have a heta to see this. Obviously on the internet, the programs are archived. You can download them anytime on the Fear Kashas, F-E-A-R, Kashas, Kashes.com. So then you'll know that I quoted Torah sources like from the Sefer Kitzah HaShloah, speaking about Rabbanim who don't do what they're supposed to do and be moicha. If you think when you have a Jewish newspaper, Rabbi Lifshitz, and you ignore this, and you don't say anything about it, in other words, there's not enough seichel. If the excuse is we're going to make Kali of the kids, there's not enough seichel to write about it in a way that won't make Kali of the kids. Where's the Torah Hashem Achkimas Pesi for you? You really can't figure out how to say same-gender marriage or Toeva laws or anything else? And then Hamodia, that's done precious little, an occasional letter to the editor or an article from Jacoby about hate crimes. I accuse Hamodia and Yated of not only betraying the Frum community by not activating the people to contact the state senators. Yes, you put on page 7 the statements from Agudas Yisrael, the Milkto statements, and you think you're Yotze, without one article to explain to people all the terrible legal ramifications. All I can say is shame on Aguda, shame on Hikind, shame on the Yated, and shame on Hamodia. And when Hashem will ask you after 120 years, what did you do? Al Kavodi Le Mechisem, I think they'll have a hard time giving answers. A guten Tamid.